There we go. Now, Magic the Gathering is a trading card game where you and an opponent each start off with 20 life points and a deck of 60 cards containing magical spells, medieval weaponry, and the beings that wield them. And the goal is to use these cards to reduce your opponent's life points to 0. Now, in the 8 years since I started playing Magic, I've only become more enamored by the game. From its rich storyline to the wacky interactions between cards, every part of Magic captivated me in some way. But the more I played, there was one particular aspect that stood out. And that is the secondary market. The Magic secondary market is made up of stores and websites that let people buy and sell Magic cards. And it's this complex and ever-changing ecosystem, and it's one of the things that makes Magic so unique and interesting. You can use it to buy new cards you want for a deck, or sell old ones that you no longer need. But it can also be confusing and daunting, especially if you're new to it. So for my project, I set out to solve that last problem. I decided that to do so, I would create an app that tells you the price of any given card, as well as its price history, to give you more context for if now is really the best time to buy it or to sell it. To do this, I chose to use React. React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces that basically turns JavaScript from a pure logic programming language into a language that can handle more of the visual aspects of web development. This project was my first time working with React, but I had used JavaScript a lot before it, so the learning curve wasn't too steep. And now that I got the tools I was going to use, I could get to coding. The first step was gathering the price data for the cards. I used prices from TCG Player, an online Magic the Gathering store that sells cards for Magic the Gathering as well as other trading card games. To get that data, I created a server that, when prompted by my app, would gather the data from TCG Player and send it back. After that was working, the next step was to actually build the app that would receive the data and display it. I started by blocking out all the app components, just so I could get a better feel for the size and location of everything. And then I connected a graphing library so it could display the price history for cards. Once that was working, I imported some test data for a couple of cards and got all that displaying properly. And finally, I got it communicating with the server so that it could get the data for any card and not just the ones in the test data set. At this point, the app was working, but it was all being run locally off my laptop. So if I ever turned it off or closed my laptop, the app would go down and I couldn't access it. To fix this, I had to find a more permanent hosting solution. I decided to go with AWS, or Amazon Web Services. It's a cloud servicing platform that allows you to run programs on Amazon's really fast servers instead of just whatever you have lying around. And after a bit of head scratching and a lot of bug fixing, I finally got my app working on AWS, which meant that I could access it from anywhere on any device, anytime I wanted to, which was pretty cool. And that's pretty much where my project stands today. It's all working as intended. The only thing left to do is to put a couple of security measures in place, and then I can release it to the public. But overall, this project was really fun. It incorporated 2 of my favorite interests, Magic the Gathering and coding. And in the end, it left me with a product that I'm really proud of and that I find myself using daily. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, cool.
You mentioned a website. How do you pull the data? Do you have to like scan the website or their database? How do you get that?
So TCG Player has what's called an API, stands for Application Programming Interface, and it means that I can make requests to it to get data from cards. Yeah, just get pricing data, and they allow it for public use. So it's very cool. Yes. Yeah, probably just putting it on the App Store and then sending it to a few friends. But yeah. Yeah.
Are you gonna like expand?
No, I think I'm leaving it with just Magic for now. All right, great, thank you.
We're all set here. So. And. So you can just use these for that. Okay.
Yes. Can everyone hear me? Hi, my name is Sucha Molly Wise, and this year I wanted to do a project that highlights an experience like no other. Laughter. This whole project is based on the continuous laughing moments I get with not only myself, but with my little sister Sakira. Sakira and I found a TikToker named Charles Brockman III. He's known for recreating Disney Channel movie scenes in a comical way. His videos are extremely entertaining and always keep me laughing because of his strong ability to accurately reenact these scenes while adding even more humor than the original clip. The enjoyment I received from these videos.
Front office, Ramiro, please come to the front office. Thank you.
has inspired me to explore this too. So for my project, I wanted to create a tier list. Well, I want to jokingly create a tier list ranking Disney Channel movies using iconic Camp Rock quotes and lines. My passion project. It's titled My Passion Project because I'm not seriously invested in this topic to do an entire project around it. I was just given an opportunity to explore something I truly appreciate. My original plan was to write about 10 movies, but due to time, I only wrote 5 movie reviews. My structure for writing the movie reviews was pretty simple. I would watch the movie as I would write, starting off with a short description. I would then move on into giving my review part of the essay. And after that, I would touch on where it's placed on the tier list and why. And finally, I will finish it off with a conclusion. I'm hoping on Expo night, most of you will find interest in a silly topic like this. I at least hope you laugh a little, and if you haven't seen the movie, my review will encourage you to watch it. Thank you. Any questions?
How do you decide which movies to put in the short?
Say it again.
How do you decide which movies to put in the short?
So I've basically like seen all these movies and I just kind of went off of like memory, like which ones I kind of in that moment really was like passionate about writing and which ones like made me laugh the most, and also watching like his TikToks and just like kind of reenacting the whole thing. So whichever one just really like sparked some inspiration, and also some of them are just really bad. So I just wanted to comment on them. But yeah, so that was my main thing. Yeah. Probably Radio Rebel, just because it has like iconically made its way back, and I feel like there are like everlasting memes to go with that movie. So definitely that. Yeah. Oh no. No, I was thinking about doing something like that or doing kind of like a movie review, but like I don't know, I can't do it as well as he does it, so I don't want to even try to like do something like that. So I feel like I'm a very opinionated person when it comes to these things, and then I'm also funny. So mixed with that and like my writing was probably the best way for me to interpret this type of review. Okay, thank you.
All right, Alice, you're up next. Going backwards. Hi, I'll try to be louder than I was yesterday. So I cry a lot, probably more than I should, and I've always wondered why. Like, why do I cry? Why do people in general cry? So I decided to lean into that for my project. I also really wanted to learn how to draw an eye, so I combined the two and made an animation of an eye. And I also did a lot of research on crime. These are a few of the first iterations. These are traced over my own eye, or pictures of my own eye, and also images I found on the internet. And these iterations give me a nice example of how to draw the shape and the proportions of the eye. These are a few of the second iterations. The first two were still traced over, but the third and fourth were the beginnings of self-drawn eyes. Around the middle, no, towards the end of the project, I ran into a problem. Originally I was going to play a time lapse. But in the end, I also ended up making an animation, and I couldn't fit both the time lapse and the animation because my script was too short. So then I just made my script longer. And there was a lot of problems because I made my script too long, but in the end, it all worked out. These are a few pictures of parts of the animation. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, Mackenzie. Just how we actually only cry because of evolution and not really because it's helpful to us in any way. It helps you, it informs others that you need help, but if you cry out loud, it informs everybody. So with tears, it only informs those who are looking at you instead of, your enemies. Yeah. I didn't really look into that as much. Yeah, for sure. I'm much better at it now than I was when I just started. Thank you.
Next up, we have BE.
Thanks for being such a great audience, everyone. Hi, I'm Katie, and thank you for coming to my presentation. For my project, I took photos of abandoned spaces, and I wanted to do this project because I would be learning two new skills, photo taking and photo editing, or photography. Photography is something I've never really done before, but it's always something I wanted to try. And I was excited to try something new for this project. My final product would also be accompanied by written statements for to go with some of the photographs. So what I was aiming for was 16 final photos, the writing bits, and also learning how to use Lightroom. So my first step was planning. So I created a Google document and put all the places I wanted to go to on it. And then I would do my research and cut it down until I had a realistic list of places I was going to go to. I was planning to go to 5 or 6 places, but with time constraints, I only ended up going to 3. But I was more concerned about how many photos I'd have at the end than how many places I was going to. So my planned out steps for each thing would kind of be in, sorry, the word left my mind, but it would be in little, gosh. Anyway, So I would take photos and I would start editing those photographs and cut down the ones I don't like. And then I do that every time I went to a new place to take a photo. So when I started taking the photos, I went to 3 different places. The first place was during winter break, I went out to Maine to see my family. So I went to old bunkers in Maine to take the photos. The second place I went to was a ghost town in the mountains. Unfortunately, I can't really go inside to that place. So it's mainly outside photos there. And the third place I went was Suture Baths, and that place was kind of busy. So the photos that I chose for my final product are what I feel to be the best out of all of them, but I took a lot of photos, about 200, for the whole project. Oh gosh, put that here. So my next step that I kind of did during the other steps was also learning how to edit, and I was learning how to use Lightroom. How I was learning to use Lightroom was probably not the most efficient way. I was mainly just messing around with it and seeing what looked good, but it ended up working out, I think. And then after that, I was printing out my photographs. That isn't too interesting, but it did take upwards of 6 hours because the printer that I was using was being really slow, but they're all printed out now. And I'm pretty happy with all my final photographs. All 16 of them should be up for Expo Night. And my whole project went really smoothly, which is kind of rare for me with Brightworks projects. But thank you for coming. Any questions? Yes. Oh, I forget the name. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Iris. Oh, I think the old bunkers. They were really cool and like empty. Thank you for coming. Oh, Iris. A Canon one. I'm sorry, I forget the exact name, but this one. Not this project, but I do plan on continuing photography because I really like doing it.
All right, yes, we have, wait, let me make sure. So the next folks to go are gonna be Joe, and then we have Patrick and Drew following Joe. Okay. Joe. All right, here you go, Joe.
So my project is block print microorganisms, and the reason I chose this was because I figured that microorganisms are super cool, but they're not super accessible to the majority of people, and I wanted to make them more accessible while also having fun myself. So I was trying to think of some kind of art style or medium to use, and I figured block printing would be good because I've been having a lot of fun with that recently. So I went out and collected some local water samples. One of them is Glen Park, like the creek that runs through Glen Park, and Lake Merced, which is actually where that creek comes from. So I figured that would be an interesting comparison. And I also collected some from an artificial body of water from my own backyard. I took the water samples under a microscope and looked for some interesting shapes. And I found quite a few, but I only ended up using 6, 2 from each sample. These are some other pictures that I used that I didn't end up using, which I thought looked really cool. Some issues I faced was really just me getting distracted. The big cluster of stamps were all of the stamps that I made instead of the stamps that I needed to make. And the other one is one of my first iterations of a stamp that I made that didn't turn out how I wanted it to. But it ended up going pretty smoothly. I finished all my stamps in time, and all of my prints will be at Expo. Thank you. I would just like to say big thanks to Micheline for introducing me to block printing in the first place. It wouldn't have happened without her. Any questions? Micheline.
I'm just curious if you, like, did the art fascinate you more than subject, or did the science fascinate you?
Definitely more with the art. I was planning on going more science oriented, but I ended up not having enough time to do that. So I just focused on the art. Philip?
Were you able to identify what you did there? Or that sort of stuff?
I was going to, but I ended up not having enough time to. So I focused on the art more. Mackenzie?
You kind of rested to like an inspiring block artist with
Oh, I wouldn't say I'm not experienced with it, but I guess just don't be afraid to make mistakes, which is pretty generic advice, but it rings true. Eyelid. I think so, yeah, it's pretty fun.
All right, Patrick.
So, okay,
Okay.
use these
Okay.
for switching, and you'll see it up there. if you want
Okay, everyone hear me okay? Okay, so, hello, my name is Patrick. Welcome to my exploration into camera anatomy. I've had a passion for cameras and film for going on 2 years now, with an uncountable number of hours of like YouTube videos watched on everything from like lens modifications to depicted here, dynamic symmetry. Barely understand it, but it looks pretty cool, so it's here. But a lot of these videos that I end up watching tend to not work too well for me. A lot of them end up having a lot of filler time, sponsors, or they'll just be talking for a long time without saying anything important. And there's just enough information that I don't want to like skip it or just leave, but gets boring after a while. When we started working on our documentaries, my passion was kind of reignited for cameras and film again. And I wanted to try and narrow down a video like this into something where it doesn't have that filler, where it's all clean and concise and just to the point. I originally set out to make a 15-minute video that would talk about, well, just general camera use. It would have like polished graphics, animation, it'd be nice, it'd look all nice and pretty. May already be able to tell, I did not actually make a 15-minute video with all that. So I started out okay with, oh my God. I practiced this last night. It did not go this badly. I started out okay. I had the basics of a script laid out. I wanted to revise a little, but we're gonna work okay for a first try. I had a camera model set up in my modeling software Blender, and I was already starting to like get excited about this again. We ended up having winter break, and that kind of killed the momentum I had. And then with other projects that we had, additional, like the documentary and then later grant writing, I ended up spending more of my time working on other projects than my own. So I ended up having to pivot. Okay, extra pivoting slide, emphasizing pivot to more of a coffee table book format. Because I found out in this kind of span of time where I wasn't doing much work on my project that my graphics would take too much time to do. I had gone a little way overboard with my my goals in the beginning, got a little too overconfident, and I was not going to be able to finish any of them on time. especially if I want to do recording or like have an actual presentation at the end of it. So I ended up working on this a bit more. I repurposed my existing graphics that I worked on into more of like a wireframe format. Here is hopefully one of the final graphics that'll appear in the book when I finish it. A lot of the design inspiration that I'm still referencing came from, we went on a field trip to the Black Panther Museum, and these were on the museum, there are these posters on the wall, and then on these posters, there are these two magazine covers or newspaper covers that I just really like the look of and like the way the type works. Just very pretty to me. And I liked, I wanted to try and emulate that kind of style and incorporate it into my, my book. I'm not quite done with it. I have most of my final visuals planned out, but I don't have the final like pages. I don't have the final like written out type. I have pictures I want to take over break, but hopefully I'll have it finished at some point, and I'll be able to show what graphics and stuff I do have at Expo. Any questions? Noah. For cameras related stuff, it was more of, well, actually bits and pieces, but not directly from like what I was researching for the project. But in terms of for like modeling all the cameras, I did actually learn quite a fair bit. Micheline?
I love that you got into inspiration. And I'm wondering, like, how would you describe that type of graphic design that they use?
To me, what I like really appreciate, I'm just gonna quickly go back in slides here. It's just the, as like for the titles, they're like type heavy. And I really, to me, one of my other passions is being like typography and like font stuff. And I wanted to like try and focus in on that a little, working on like my book design, because I just wanted to get better at it because I'm really interested into it. Nolan. What? Okay, the general plan was to make it like just a very basic tutorial where any camera is like any like decent camera you could like apply the same knowledge. Okay. Oh, actually, yes. I'm in like the kind of wrapping up phases of doing the visuals for the book, like redoing them. I kind of got a bit more back into it, and so I'll probably be doing more of the visuals that I wanted to do over break. So I might eventually get something close to like my original plan for the video out. Okay, thank you.
All right, one quick note that we didn't mention at the beginning of the day is that our 3 documentary films are going to be at Expo in some form. And I think possibly projected here, and if not here, a band space. So that's something that all the students in this group have worked on collaboratively, and is another like branch of our projects that I think everybody's really proud of and has had a lot of hard work going to them. So that's something that I want to put a plug in for. If you see that, it's a collective project. And we have Drew. Drew is our final presenter. With the remaining time, I think we'll do the same thing as the morning. We'll go and continue to work on final project prep. But let's give our attention to Drew. Is this the right slide? Is that the right slide? Yep. Okay,
My project is Ape arm extenders, and they were used on set of a movie called Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which is one of the newer ones. And they just kind of helped them get the motion capture a little better. And then, do I press a button to change this? So here's some inspiration. that guy, I forget his name. And then that guy, his name is Midge. And then that guy, I forget his name as well. The two on the right and the top are from Chimp Haven, which is a like safe haven for chimps after they've been like tested on, where they get to retire. And then the bottom right there is Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and the guy with the arm extender things is one of the main guys in that movie who did the motion capture. And yeah, that's what he did. This is this guy I saw at Oakland Zoo. That's that. Here's some sketches of some. I was kind of researching into how how apes walk. They walk with their knuckles, and so I was looking at some bone structures of hands and the difference between human and ape hands. And there's some more kind of sketches of that. And a lot of the struggles I went through was what I used to make the arm extenders was wooden hot glue, and I burned myself a lot, and it hurt. Here's the picture of my first iteration. When I walked with these, I cut myself like here. So that's my second iteration. And then when I walk with these, I didn't cut myself here. So that's what that does. There we go.
That's the join the spot. Would you, I see them right here. Would you be willing to demo them?
Not right now. I used I use a pocket knife, a glue gun. I used a jigsaw. I used tape.
These studies go beyond kind of the arm movement into like what pharmacology, and if not, what is that?
So I did research a little bit about just chimps as a whole and like their what they do in the wild, and other apes and primates and what they do in the wild. But I didn't really look into more of the like physical parts of that. Yeah. Chimps actually make nests and they sleep in them, and they never sleep in the same one twice. And that was really interesting to me because they're pretty large, so it's cool that they make nests.
Thanks everybody for being such an awesome audience. And Obsidian, you guys were amazing today. You should be really proud of yourself and all your presentations. So thank you so much. I think that's it. And we're gonna just head back upstairs. Thank you parents for coming out and supporting, and the parents that are on.